the first
Yeah.
artist signed by Outkast. That's correct?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Quemini Records. So.
All right. Hell yeah. Now the Dungeon family, I feel, doesn't get enough credit for everything that they've contributed. You've seen.
Yeah, I feel.
You guys contributed a lot of classic records. You know, like even like the Goody Mob, Soul Food, and of course, Outkast.
Right.
But I mean, I know, just being a hip hop head, that the Dungeon family is spread all through hip hop even today with Future and True Life. They were down with the Dungeon family. Even Bubba Sparks. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So do you feel that the Dungeon family gets slept on a little bit?
Say that one more time.
Do you feel the Dungeon family gets slept on a little bit and doesn't get its credit?
I guess it just depends on where you're coming from and what's going on. You got a lot of people who grew up, of course, from down here who know what the business is, but then you get a disconnect sometimes with the youth, and then as far as Outkast is Outkast, so the accomplishments that they have done for themselves, speaks for itself. Goody Mob as well, CeeLo, but you still got other members of the DF as far as like Cool Breeze, myself, Backbone, Witch Doctor, who got a lot of who have music and projects out there. You know what I'm saying? That have made marks, maybe not have made the marks that Outkast or Goody Mob has made. So you get it from that perspective.
Mm. Now, how did you meet Outkast? How did you hook up with those guys?
Well, it started. I actually started with on the side of the management. The guys who originally managed Outkast, which was Greenhouse Management, that was Sean Johnson and Ian Burke. I started with them. I met them through a homegirl of mine who used to rap, and Sean was managing her. And we linked up. I linked up with Ian. This is back in the early '90s, and I used to go to showcases and stuff like that going on around town, and I would link up with Sean from time to time and see them at showcases, and then we just kept in communication. He after that, me and Ian, who was his partner at the time, like I said, they were managing Outkast and helping organized noise with a lot of the situations that were going on, because Ian was actually responsible, like I said, for Outkast, but he was also responsible for Arrested Development, Escape, TLC, a lot of stuff like that. He helped a lot of those groups get the situations that they got when they first got their start. So that was like my mentor at the time, who took me up under his wing, and Ian and then this other guy named Eric Johnston, who was working for BMG at the time, started a label called 9 Lives, and Mr., which you now know Bobby V was a part of the group Mr. I was actually their road manager when I was like 17. So through that process, I ended up around, just organizing in the whole nine. But I had a relationship actually with Gil. With Gil, with Ray Murray from Organized Noise, and Sleepy. Sleepy's brother and I used to have birthday parties together when we was in kindergarten and elementary school. So it was always some type of something that bridged us together, but it never came full circle until I got older. And what ended up happening with me being around the guys, I ended up linking up with Mr. DJ, who was Outkast DJ at the time.
Yeah, it was their first DJ,
Yeah, I got with him, and I was like, man, I need to get on some of these beats. So me and him chopped it up, and the first record we did was it was actually on my album called Time Lock. And I actually did that record probably in '95. And wow, we went in the studio and I dropped that record, and that really was the beginning, because I dropped that record. He was out there with Cass. Big actually wanted to try to put that on the Aquemini project, and they ended up holding off on the situation. But, fast forward a few years later, I'm just sitting around at the house. One day, DJ called me, and he said, look, Outkast got thinking about starting a label. What you think about being the first artist? So I was like, label? What you mean? He was like, nah, they thinking about getting their own label, and they interested in signing you as the first artist. So I tell him, yeah, cool. Let's see what's happening. And what ended up happening, the record that you were talking about on the Light It Up soundtrack, he called me. He said, come to the studio. They working on the soundtrack for this movie with Usher's in, Light It Up, and we ended up doing that record. I dropped that verse, and the rest was history.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. You were a road manager. That's crazy.
I did have several other records that, like Red Clay, I did that in like 95, 96. It was several other records that I had done, so they had heard several records that they had been vibing with over the, a year or two prior to the situation. And it just evolved into what it evolved into, and it, with God's blessing, it happened.